Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's Dave with Gen 3D Tech again, and today we are taking a look at the Ninjutso Sora. It's been one of my favorite mice that I've been using the last month or so, and I've been very anxious to share this with you. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, this product was provided for review by Ninjutso, and as always, my opinions are my own. So with that out of the way, let's first go over the specs. The Sora sports a 3395 sensor with Huano pink dot switches and a TTC encoder. It has a max polling rate of 1000 Hertz, sports a USB-C charging port, up to 70 hours battery life. It has a depth of 37.3 millimeters, a grip width of 59 millimeters, and a length of 20.8 millimeters. I purchased a copy on top of the one that was sent to me for review, both copies weighing at 47 grams on my scale, which is in line with what most other reviewers found. So you can probably expect 47 grams to be the actual weight of the Sora, which is still an incredibly lightweight mouse. As you can see, shape-wise, this mouse is very similar to the Lamzu Atlantis Mini, and also the XM1 from in-game gear. It's also a little bit similar to the X2 Mini, but of course the Mini does have much flatter sides where the Sora tapers in, much like the Lamzu Mini does. And also the in-game gear XM1. I should have an XM2 Wii pretty soon, later this week I believe, but I didn't get that in time to do a comparison with this on this video, but I'll definitely compare the Sora to the XM2 Wii when I do that review. So definitely check that out if you're interested in how these two compare. Now, size-wise, it is slightly larger than a Lamzu Atlantis Mini and a Pulsar X2 Mini, but it's smaller than the OG Mini and the original X2. It sits right in between a small and medium-sized mouse, which I think is a good size for most people. If you have really small hands, you might still be better off with an Atlantis Mini or an X2 Mini. For reference, it is also slightly bigger than the Hottie S Plus from G-Wolves. The Sora is also, of course, a symmetrical shaped mouse. Last year, Ninjutso released the Katana Wireless, which is also a symmetrical type mouse, but it is a very large mouse similar to the old Microsoft IntelliMouse. I reviewed this mouse on my channel, and I like the mouse, even though it personally it felt a little too big for me, especially as a gaming mouse. I did enjoy using this as an office mouse. People with large hands seem to really enjoy this mouse overall, though. But this was definitely a good quality mouse and a step in the right direction for them, which led them to the Sora. So now let's get on to the build quality of the Sora. Now first off, I have seen a few complaints on sensor issues and some creaking issues with the Sora. From what I gather, there's a few people who have some sensors that are probably just bad sensor units that are causing the issues that have been reported. Now, like I said, I have two copies of this mouse, and neither one exhibited any of those issues. And I spent a good month testing both of the mice to try and recreate the issues people were having, and I could never get it to do that. So I feel confident that the people that are having those sensor issues are just defective units, and I highly encourage them to RMA those units, because if you do get a good unit, you've got a good mouse. Now, and as I stated, I have two of these mice, and both of them have no QC issues, really good build quality. And if you're concerned about that, you can see for yourself and hear for yourself when I do the sound test. So anyways, let's go ahead and get the sound test out of the way. Well, as you can see and hear, the build quality on both of these mice are great. The switches sound snappy. The scroll wheel sounds and feels tactile in a very good way. The wheel has a tactile feeling rubber coating around the wheel. The side buttons are placed very well. Sound and feel great. There's virtually no pre or post travel on the side buttons. The main mouse and 1-2 buttons have a little pre-travel and just a hair of post-travel. Side flex on the main mouse buttons is almost non-existent and it's extremely tight. On the bottom of the mouse, there's a on and off switch and then a DPI button. There's also this little tiny storage compartment for your dongle. Now, this thing I'm not crazy about. I do like having storage for the dongle, but this little door could easily break and fall off and get lost. I do have another mouse that has a door just like this, the Dharma Shark, and that thing keeps falling off and eventually you're going to lose it. So I'm not a big fan of this. I would have just preferred to have a little spot where it kind of fits up in there. But it's still better than not having a place to store your dongle. Now, skate-wise, you can see it's got 4 corner skates. The Katana had 2 large skates. Now you can see I did swap out the Katana for some hyper skates. I don't know if we're going to get hyper skates for the Sora. I haven't asked yet, but I imagine we might if you're looking for glass skates. Now, in the box, what's really cool is you do get a set of full-size skates. So if you don't like the corner skates, you can swap them out for the full-size skates. That'll probably give you a little bit more slow but more controlled feel if you use those skates. And I'm sure there's going to be a third-party support for the Sora as there was for the Katana. So eventually you should be able to get your favorite brand skates for the Ninjutso Sora. And one other thing I'd like to point out is with the Katana, they had this little magnetic connector that in practice it was pretty cool, but it was kind of a one-of-a-kind thing, and if you lost it or broke it, you're kind of screwed. You won't be able to charge it anymore. You'll have to buy a replacement cable straight from them, and who knows, how long they would stock something like that. And as I pointed out, the Sora does have the standard USB-C, so I prefer that opposed to some proprietary port like that, even though it was kind of cool. The coating on the Sora has some texture to it, and I found that it's fairly grippy. It's definitely a big improvement over the Katana wireless coating-wise. It might still be a little too slick for some people, but like the skates, I'm sure at some point there will be some third-party grips available for the Sora at some point. But overall, I do think the coating is fairly good. Now, one other thing I'd like to point out on the back of this mouse, one negative about this mouse that I found is this edge right here. It's really sharp. It's like that on both of the copies of the Sora that I have. Now, if you take the edge on the Lamzu Atlantis Mini, it's definitely rounded off and it's not sharp feeling. Now, if you fingertip this or claw it, you're never going to feel that. But if you pull it back into your palm, it does kind of dig in right here. So at times I would feel that, and it is a little bit uncomfortable. I would like to see them kind of round this off just a little bit in future batches if they could. And in the box, you don't get a whole lot. You just get the a basic nice paracord cable with a nice USB-C adapter, and then you get a wireless adapter, and it does have the name Ninjutso on it. It would be cool though if it said Sora on there, just so I could tell it apart from other Ninjutso mice. And like I said, you do get an extra pair of skates, the larger ones that fill out the top and the bottom better. Well, this is all well enough and good, but I'm sure you're wondering by now, how well does it feel in hand and how good is it in games? Well, I'm happy to report the Sora feels great, and you can use it fingertip grip, aggressive claw, relaxed claw, and you can even palm it. Now for reference, I have 19 by 10 centimeter hands. So depending on the size of your hands, your mileage may vary with this mouse. As I said before, it's kind of in between a small and a medium, but I definitely consider a smaller size mouse. The Sora is probably best in a claw style grip, which I believe that it was mostly designed to be. At 47 grams, it's a very lightweight mouse, and it's certainly very easy to fingertip at that weight. I personally love how the sides curve in and the back flares out. It gives a nice locked-in feeling. The back top of the mouse makes good contact with the back middle of my palm, which helps steady the mouse when you really need it. The clicks feel great to me, but some people might find them a bit too heavy for their liking. For me, I found them perfectly spammable and a pleasure to game with. Gaming-wise, this was one of my favorite shapes until the Lamzu Atlantis Mini came along. The clicks and shape of the Mini are just ever so slightly a little bit better for me personally, but the Sora has a slight edge when it comes to the coating. Both mice, though, are fabulous in my opinion, and it really just comes down to price and availability. The Sora comes in at $95, and the Atlantis Mini comes in at $89. Both mice are hard to come by at the time of this review, so for me, it would be just whichever one you could buy at that particular time. Now, some people will see both mice and say that they have a low-end MCU, which is true. You can certainly get a mouse with a better MCU like a Nordic, but those mice typically start around the $120 or a higher range, and you probably will get a little bit better latency. So if 1 or 2 milliseconds of latency is super important to you, then perhaps save up for something like the Razer Viper V2 Pro or even the GWIS Hottie S Plus. Both have extremely low latency, but both of them are very expensive. You're going to expect to pay $150, $160 or more. But for 99% of the gamers out there, the MCUs in mice like this that are under $100 are going to be more than good enough. Now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and check out the software. Anyways, here's the software for the Sora. It's very basic and simple. Right here you got the key assignments. You can assign up to 6 different keys. You got a macro editor right here, a battery indicator right there, and storage for 3 different profiles. Over here, you got the DPI settings. You got 4 different steps of DPI, 400, 800, 1600, and 3200. I typically use 1600. And then right here, you got the polling rate, which is set to 1000 hertz polling. Liftoff distance is defaulted to 1 millimeter. Power management right here, you can select how long it takes before it goes into idle mode. Right now, it's set to 3 minutes, which is the default. And then debounce time, I wanted to show you, it is at 12 milliseconds, which is really high. You can set it down. I usually go to 0 or 1. Now, when you lower this, you do run the risk of double clicks, but for the most part, most mice, you can set it all the way down to the bottom at 0 milliseconds or 1 millisecond, and you won't get any double clicks. But if you do, go ahead and just kind of start raising it until it goes away. If you get anything over 4, you might consider RMAing it. And then right here, you do have a shortcut to the Windows mouse properties, which is a nice little feature. And then right down here, version number of the software. Anyways, that's about it for the software. Let's get on with the rest of the video. So in conclusion, I do love the Sora, and the more that I used it, the better impression it made with me. In fact, it probably would have ended up a little bit higher on my top 10 mice of 2022 video. as I only had it for a few days before I had to make that video. Now, I do personally like the Lamzu Atlantis Mini just slightly more, but not enough more if there was no Atlantis Mini in stock and I could buy the Sora, I'd go ahead and just get the Sora. And for anyone that has a Sora and you've had some QC issues, like I said before, I highly encourage you to seek out support, and if it can't be resolved, then just go ahead and RMA it. Because if you get a good copy like the two that I have, I think you'll be pleasantly happy with it. And if you bought it, you deserve to have a good copy. And like I said, there's not a single mouse that's out on the market that doesn't have QC issues. Now, I do admit that there are some companies and certain models that might have a little bit more share of QC issues than other, and I think most people know who those companies and certain models are. They do have a reputation, but as far as I can tell, the Sora isn't any worse than any other mouse that's come along. So going off the two copies that I have, it's hard for me to say that there's an issue with this mouse, and I can wholeheartedly recommend it. So if you're looking for a great lightweight mouse that's under $100, then the Sora might be your ticket. If you want to purchase one, I'll definitely have links in the description. And if I find additional links, I'll add them as I find them. Also, if you follow me on Twitter, I typically do retweet whenever certain mice go on sale, when they've been out of stock and they come back into stock. If you pay attention to my feed, I typically will mention when things come back in stock at certain different stores. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, as it really helps out the channel grow and helps me get new content. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. I always enjoy feedback, and definitely I try to answer as many questions as possible. You can also reach out to me on Reddit and also Twitter. Locally, we've had some really bad weather lately, and that's really screwed up my review schedule, so I'm a little bit behind, but stick around as I have a lot of great stuff coming up, and I'm going to try and get those out to you as soon as possible. Anyways, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Later.